You are listening to Proof Text, a Glossa House podcast exploring Scripture and all things related to it. New episodes are released daily. For more information, check out glossahouse.com and subscribe to our channels on Spotify and YouTube. Welcome and enjoy.
Hello, welcome to Constituent Marking with Fred Long on Proof Text. I'm Fred Long, and we're looking at 1 Corinthians 13:11 today. Last time we looked at the when the perfection comes, that which is partial will be done away with. All right. In verse 11 here, we're in this realm of like growing up, and growing up from infant to adult male. So there's an analogy going on here that we'll see. And I think this is part of the context that Paul is trying to encourage here is to grow up, and particularly grow up in terms of love. So this is all connected to the context. So let me read the Greek text translated, and we'll do some constituent marking. Ota emein nepios. All right, I'm going to stop there. Ota is a connector, meaning when. I put a box around it here, represented by a green highlight. And then I come across the verb, emein, and the predicate nominative, nepios. So emein is from imi. It's an imperfect indicative form, first singular. When I was nepios, an infant. This is all a subordinate clause, so I put this inside of brackets. And I'm going to number this because there's going to be another subordinate clause. So when I was an infant, elalun os nepios. Os nepios is a subordinate clause as well. Os means like as. And often with os clauses, there is an implied verb. And we'll look at that. The main verb here is alalun. Alalun is from laleo. This is a contract verb, meaning to like speak. And this particularly profiles like the speech sound, kind of like the speech as experienced audibly, as opposed to lego, which is more the speech received as discourse. So I think there's a slight difference there. While we're speaking of different words for speaking, you got laleo, lego, and then phemi as well. So each of these obviously are overlapping, but they are also slightly different. And laleo is a bit more profiling, I would say, the audibleness of the speaking itself, like what is heard. So when I was an infant, elalun, this is imperfect, active, indicative, first singular. What happens is that the epsilon contract combines with the on, omicron nu, of the first singular formative, forming un. So I was speaking as an infant speaks. That's the implied verb. So you have another subordinate clause. So the os here also needs a box, because os, the conjunction omega sigma, is like approximation or similarity. I was speaking as an infant was speaking. So when I was an infant, I was speaking as an infant is speaking. Okay, so there's a syndeton here. There is no connector connecting to verse 10. So that's kind of interesting. And it may be, we have to ask about what is the connection, what is implied there? Like, why is a syndeton being used? I might suggest, although I'd like to think about this more, that maybe verse 10 is general, and verse 11 is particular, specifics. So dealing with specific situation or specific scenario. Now, there's another sentence here in verse 11. So, ephronun os nepios. And what's happening here is ephronon is phroneo, to think, which has an augment. And this is also, I should have cut off the augment in alalun. So ephronun is also imperfect active indicative first singular. And it also has a os nepios. So os nepios as an infant. And we're going to see this again as an infant. So Paul is stressing this this kind of, when I was an infant, there's three kind of things that were going on. Alelun, I was speaking as an infant. Ephronun, I was thinking as an infant. And elogids omein, I was, I guess, reasoning from logidzo, logizome. So this is imperfect, middle formed, indicative first singular. So you have a nice imperfect formation there. So you have one subordinate clause at the start, setting up kind of a framework of when I was an infant. And then you've got three verbal activities, speech, kind of a conception, and then reasoning out. And each of them is explained as a comparison like an infant, which makes sense because I was an infant. And so when I'm an infant, these things are done as an infant. Now, 11c begins differently. It begins with ota gegona aner. So yayona is I became. This is from yinome. It is to become. It's perfect active indicative, first singular. And aner is a man, a grown man. So there's a contrast between aner and nepios, infant versus a man. So there's a contrast there. So there is a syndeton once again, and there's a parallelism. We can see it. It's very clearly a parallel statement. So when I was a man, well, what did I do? What did I do? So when I was a man, kat ergeka ta tu nepiu. I here then is the kat ergeo. This is the verb that we've been seeing from the previous verses. Kat ergeo is to put away. What did I do? And this is perfect. So stressing this. I have put away. So when I have become a man, I have put away the things of the infant. Ta to nepiu. So ta is the alpha, tau alpha. It is the article, plural, accusative, a double underline it, as well as its genitive modifier. Ta is like the things of the infant. The things of the infant. So this becomes an expression. Really, it's a substantiving. It's a substantive use of the modifier to nepiu of the infant. So the things of the infant I have put away. So this part of the sentence is rather stressed. It's rather stressed because of the perfect tense verbs, okay, as resultative, like showing the result. And there is really an implied contrast with being an infant, right? So as Paul said, when the perfect comes, the partial is done away with. So if we look back at verse 10, That's what he said. When the maturity comes, and that's one way that we can translate teleon. When the maturity comes, that which is in part is done away with. So now, when I become a man, when I'm grown up, I have put away the things of the infant. Yeah. And in the context, growing up means what? Well, it means love. And in the broader context, love over gifts. Love over gifts. Like, it's not just about me exercising my gifts, whether it be prophesying, knowledge, or tongue or language speaking. And there seems to be something going on here with regard to language speaking, speaking as an infant, thinking as an infant, reasoning as an infant. I've put away those things. All right, so that's verse 11, and we'll continue next time with verse 12.
Interested in growing your ancient language skills but not sure where to start? Glossa House can help. From illustrated readers and short stories to lexicons and grammars, Glossa House offers a variety of resources for beginning, intermediate, and experienced ancient language learners. Head to glossahouse.com today. Glossa House, language resources for the global community.